So here it is, another week, another black man shot in the back, 7 times Jacob Blake.
And right now is crazy, but one thing that we've seen that's a little bit different is the protests from athletes actually boycotting games, and that's huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of pundits are saying, well, why don't you just shut up and dribble? And I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of how sports and politics have been intricated since the very beginning. You know, for example, there's a legend that the ancient Greeks started the Olympics as a way, or at least during it, they had a truce between all their wars. So right there, you're seeing the sports being a way to bring peace. We have how Germany was banned from the Olympics after World War I, along with their allies. Mm-hmm. We saw how Jesse Owens was used as a prop in 1936 in order to embarrass Hitler. And at the same way, their, Aryan superiority. So we're using black bodies to show how their America is better than, the Nazis. Mm-hmm. We had China. They invited the U.S. to a ping pong friendly that eventually led to Nixon being the first American president to go visit China in decades. I also found out there was a Pakistani and an Indian tennis player duo that they used to actually tour around together to show unity in light of their two nations being mortal enemies. So they were both going together, being a duo, playing tennis matches. And we also see that every year, whenever American sports has a championship, the team gets invited to the White House for a photo op. So they're, the politicians themselves are bringing it in. So even though they're always been used in politics, when we want something that is related to freedom, not just used as a prop, all of a sudden there's a problem, But the difference this year that I've seen a lot of good things is sports being used as a way to hurt people in their pockets, and that's actually causing change. Mm-hmm. One big thing that happened was Mississippi State running back Colin Hill. He is a Heisman Trophy candidate. He said he was not going to play this season unless Mississippi changes the state flag, which has the Confederate battle emblem embedded in it. Yeah. So that made them really realize that if he doesn't play, they're going to have a lot of, or they're going to have less nationwide stature as a team and as a state, because football brings a whole lot of money. College football brings a whole lot of money to the state. For example, I found out that Auburn, just the football program by itself, brings $95 million to the school in 2018 and 19. $95 million just from football to the school, and that's not to count the economic impact that could happen from parking lots, hotels, people visiting, advertising on TV. So it's a lot that goes into it, and when it hurts them in their pockets, that's when they actually implement change. And as a result, Mississippi already passed the law that they're going to change the state flag. They don't have a final design yet, but it's already in the books. It's going to happen. So we can see there how it changed it. And now with the NBA boycotting the playoff games, along with the WNBA, which, by the way, have been a leader in this even before the NBA. Yeah. MLB, MLS. Hockey was a little one that was kind of iffy, but there was a hockey player called Evander Kane, one of the very few black ones that started calling them out. And eventually even hockey got into the game, and they stopped some of the playoff games. So right now we see how this hitting them in their pockets is making change. And the players, the NBA players are coming back on the other ones, but they did manage to get some concessions. For example, all of the NBA teams now will work with their states and the cities where they're located to make their arenas into voting stations, COVID-safe voting locations.
Oh, wow.
Something that actually the Atlanta Hawks already did. Thank you, Hawks. They used it for a primary for early voting here in Georgia. But now all the NBA teams are going to work to do that. And this is because it hit them in the pockets. If the players didn't play, they get no money from other TV revenue, even without fans there. So I think this is a great thing that, people say shut up and dribble, but no. Politics have used sports since their existence, so it's about time the sports could use politics to get something positive going.
Awesome. That's good to hear, man.
And I think LeBron James is also working with the LA Dodgers to convert Dodger Stadium into a voting facility as well.
Yeah, LeBron James started an organization for that and other things. I think right now his organization is raising funds from him and other people to pay voters, not voters, the election workers, the voter workers, to train them and pay for them. Because most of the people there, when you go voting in person, they're elderly people because they might be retired, they have more time, so they're trying to actually pay other people that could be less at risk of COVID to go in there and be the poll workers.
I think we were talking about this before. It was how they went to President Obama for advice on what to do next.
Right. So that kind of changed my perspective a little bit, just because how I know Obama's a corporatist. So I was thinking, I don't know, they went to Obama for advice and Obama told them to go back and play. In a way, they had this argument before within themselves about whether they should just hold out the entire season versus using their platform in the bubble to promote change. But then Obama got involved, and then it's like, okay, so he just wants to help, make sure his people don't lose money. So go back and do that, because he was, at one point he was being talked to of I think it was for the Clippers, of being a part of an ownership group to get in there. So he knows all these people, that he's friends with all these people. Wow. And also the media corporations. So it's like, okay, they're gonna lose money. Is that why Obama's saying this? I question him, but for now I'm just gonna let the player do their thing. But it's like,
I know me personally, I'm so disappointed that I heard so quickly that they were coming back to play. Like they're going, from what I understand, they're gonna be playing in a day or two. And I like the fact, the initial stance that they were not going to play. And I was curious to see how long it was going to last. I wondered if they were even canceled the rest of the season. And a lot of people, I saw a sports journalist say, like from Fox Sports, say like, what's the point? Why are athletes even getting involved with this? But the whole purpose of this is to affect the people at the top. So if the basketball players stop playing, period, now you have the owners who want their money. So if they're not getting their money, now these people who literally have Joe Biden, Donald Trump in their Rolodex, I'm going old school, but in their phone contacts, they could call them up at any moment. That's when you're activating these guys to do that and to put pressure on the politicians. And that's the whole point of people like LeBron, who are really proud of him for what he's doing. I just wish that it would have a little bit more teeth. And now we see that Obama got involved, so no wonder.
Yeah, Jared Kushner was saying like, oh, these players, how nice it is that they have the luxury of taking time off from work. But actually, that is the great thing. They're doing it for those that can't, because a lot of people, if they miss a day of work, there goes rent. Yeah. So if they can afford to do it, then great. They're using their power and their responsibility to help those that can't do, what they can. Exactly. So that's great. He was making a great point. And although he was trying to diss him, I mean, I think that's just great, because it shows that people that have, with great power comes great responsibility. So if you can't help in other ways, then do it.
So Jacob Blake got shot in the back 7 times, pretty much point blank, by one officer. I mean, it's totally, Gabe, this is totally crazy, man.
We got to look at why this is happening. And I think one of the root causes, aside from systemic racism, which we know is a thing, aside from these implicit biases and all that, is just our cops are trained horribly. This is not a problem that happens anywhere else in the world. Yeah. We have a unique problem that's uniquely American. It doesn't seem like it's rocket science to fix. If you look at it at 1,000-foot level, you have to study more to become a barber or a nail stylist than a cop. And that's preposterous.
Yeah.
There's no federal standards on what kind of education cops are required to have or on continuing education. So 34 states require de-escalation training. De-escalation is probably the most important aspect of being a cop, is being able to arrive somewhere and take a situation that's getting out of hand and calm it down. That seems like it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Additionally, only 27 states require mental or training on interacting with people with mental, behavioral issues or substance issues. So out of 50 states, only 27. So I think that we have to reimagine, rethink, redo the initial training and the continual training that police have to go through. And a big factor of that, I've seen the thoughts of Navy SEAL Commander Jocko Willenick, where he says that cops should be required to have a certain level of jujitsu training. And because of that, we see a lot of these people where a cop will just knock a woman out, or they'll two-handed shove somebody, or they'll knee on somebody's neck for 9 minutes. And all these things that are just like, if you had some kind of just ability to restrain someone properly without protecting, while protecting yourself and also not hurting them, then you would be able to control that situation much better than first thought being reach for the gun and shoot somebody 7 times. With the shooting somebody 7 times, that's part of the training. Yeah. They're trained to aim for the chest and let off flip. That is the training that they're taught, because they can't just shoot once. They're taught not to shoot in the legs. Legs are difficult to hit. So he's following training protocols, and that's horrible. It's horrible that somebody has their back to you. We've seen black men running away from the cops, running away, posing no threat, also getting shot that same way. Crazy. So we've seen a cop arrive on the scene and shoot a child within a couple seconds. So these are all, we have to show that, hey, take a breath and analyze the situation, and how can you de-escalate. So,
I think I may disagree a little bit with you on the training part of it, right? Because we've seen video where it's like white folks going back to them and cursing them out and doing whatever, or walking around and they don't do anything. And so unless they're training to be like, okay, if it's a brown person, African American, Hispanic, or type of folks, and just shoot them, I think it's just we allow this racist people come into the police force, and they come in and they do it and they take it, and they out there with that intention to go in and after this type of demographics.
That's a good point. I mean, back in the day, you used to hear, movies or whatever, they say, freeze, put your hands up. Like, what happened to that? Like, it's crazy how things change over time.
Yeah, in the courts already, they have said the reason that the cops get away with it is because all they have to say is that they felt reasonably afraid. Mm-hmm. If they say that they were afraid, they could get away with everything. So either they're hiring a whole bunch of cowards to be cops,
exactly,
or they're just more afraid of people of color than white people and automatically see us as a threat.
Yeah.
The only reason we are talking about this, and it seems like on a daily basis, is because social media, it puts it out there, right? This is nothing new. This has been happening in the African American and Latino community for years. Yeah. Like when you look at why, the first conversation that my mother had with me when I was 11 years old was, how if a cop ever pull you over, this is kind of what you have to do. You put your hands on the wheel. If it's at night, you turn on the light. You don't make no movement. You put the windows down, and you always say, yes, ma'am, no, sir. And if they ask you, where's your wallet? You tell them where it is. So she gave me this whole, and I never understood it as a kid, but this is the same thing that we talk about. Like any movement that you make, the first thing they're going to do is just shoot you, right? And when you look at the people that have a problem with the Black Lives Movement, the reason why they have a problem is because it's showing the true color of America. It's showing that, African American community they've been discriminated by cops for years, and this is nothing new. So people don't want to really affect the fact that America, is racist, and people have to understand that cops take it up on their own hand to really shoot people. Why did you have to shoot somebody in the back?
Yeah.
And the thing that really upsets me is that every time a black male or a black woman or, black person is shot, they always go back to their criminal history. For some reason, they always find they had a criminal history. Yeah. Just because you had a criminal history, you don't deserve to die. You don't deserve to get shot 7 times. Yeah. But every time, a white person does something, it's either mental health or, I think I was looking at a comment the other day that was talking about, every time a black person gets shot, their criminal history comes out. But every time, you know, a white person commits like, you know, some type of rape or something, we're messing up their future.
Or we're taking them to Burger King, or we give them a glass of water.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So you know, so when you look at those things, those are the things that really upset folks. Yeah. So it's, you know, when are we going to say enough? Like if we talk about, you know, the 17-year-old Kyle, right? He walked with that rifle through the cops. Yeah. Imagine if that was an African-American person walking with that rifle through those cops. What would have happened?
We know what would happen because of what's been happening recently, but even historically, we had the Black Panthers who legally can hold arms in California, and they changed the laws just so that the open carry laws, just so that the Black Panthers couldn't patrol their own streets and protect their people from crooked cops who are doing what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and there were a couple of other points I wanted to make on this too. So, for example, like John said, the issue of going to the criminal history. They also went on like the smear campaign that he's reaching for a knife. So imagine I'm going to my car after breaking up a fight, and I'm trying to get back to my kids who were in the car. Go and reach for a knife to pull on the cops. There's no logic there, but it's just to smear person, and it's a horrible thing to see when they're going into their past and things like that. The other thing is the police chief of Kenosha, Wisconsin. I don't know his name, but in a press conference, and they go, "Hey, what do you think about the video?" He says, "I didn't watch the video." You didn't watch the video, you know, and you can see the smug look in his face. And then they ask him again. They're like really following up. You're telling me that you didn't watch the video of this man being murdered, and the guy goes, "I said what I said. I am staying by the fact that I did not watch the video." Like trying to talk in buzzwords. Like, I really don't give a damn about this, and I don't his life. I don't care about you. I don't care about anybody. It's a disgusting look to look at that chief, the way he was talking about the situation. There's no way I didn't watch that video. And there was a slight chance that he didn't. That's in your job, because that should be one of the first things that you do as you start to investigate this and find out what happened. So it's bad either way.
I mean, it reminds me of the clip where we talked about Ujiri, you know, back when the Toronto Raptors won, and they shoved them, and right afterwards the unions was defending the cop. Like, they had the video, they knew what happened. But they were still defending the cops, and it had to come out a year later, the truth. So this guy is like just putting, you know, having a blind eye to the situation, and he's going. Even the union, the police union, was the ones that put out that he had a knife in the car, you know, which made no sense for him to attack. And he was walking away from the cop. That's the other thing. The cops was, if you look at the video, the cops was following him, and he was walking away from the cops. So it absolutely makes no sense.
It's always the case, man. It's always the case. And, you know, like, well, we have to, you know, like, my last point on this is just this. Look, there is no such thing as a blue life. You are not born blue. It's a blue life. It's a profession that you go into, cops and stuff like that. You are born black, and that's nothing you don't get to pick to be like, oh, today I don't want to be black. So, you know, you are black. And all we want in people of, you know, Latinos, black, and Muslim, and people of color always ask for is that we get the same treatment as everybody else, and we get treated like first-class citizens. The color of my skin, the language that I speak, or the way I dress should not give anyone a reason to shoot me, because I have, you know, people have family to go to just like everybody else. Yeah. So stop trying to take something away with the BS of like Blue Lives Matter, because there's no such thing as a blue life.
I want to bring it back for a second to the point that John was talking about a little bit earlier about, you know, the videos that we see, you know, when it comes to a black man and a black woman or people of color, it's always that they're or not always, but most times are unarmed and not necessarily posing a threat. And on the flip side, when we see these viral videos of white folks, it's always the opposite, where, you know, you have a guy screaming with a rifle at a crowd that I'm going to shoot you. I've seen that one. And the citizens are literally saying, he has a gun. We feel threatened. Please protect us. And the cops de-escalated him. So we see all these situations on the flip side with white folks. I feel like if there were all these videos of white folks being gunned down unarmed, those would be the most viral. So I posed a question like, let's look again at the militia guy. I don't even want to say his name because I don't want to give him any shine. But
the guy in the militia.
It was so. I mean, he came all the way from Illinois to attend these rallies, to basically anti-protest.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to say his name. His name is Kyle Rittenhouse. He's a 17-year-old kid, and he's a thug who's a member of a racist gang. I mean, we have to. I don't think it's doing us enough justice to call these people part of a militia. This is not a militia. These people are a gang. And, I mean, if you look at the definition of a gang, it's a group of persons working to unlawful or antisocial ends. Mm-hmm. You don't have to necessarily be organized. You don't have to all necessarily call each other the same part of the same group. But these people are a part of a gang, and they're out to terrorize. They're not out to protect businesses with their guns that they have no affiliation with. I mean, some of these people were standing in front of a gas station. You drove all the way from Illinois to Wisconsin to protect the gas station? Or did you show up with that gun with the intent to shoot and harm, if not kill?
His mom drove him. So where's the mom should be held accountable too.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
And I think she was even the one who got him the gun and everything. They're working obviously on the same team here. These people, they show up, they're welcomed by the police, even thanked for their presence. And I mean, to your point, Gabe, this kid had the privilege to literally walk right through the police as he had his gun strapped around him, as he had people behind him running, saying, he's the shooter. Yeah. The kid literally walks right by the police, and he's not apprehended till the day later.
In a different state.
In a different state, because he was obviously allowed to just run.
Wow.
So, I want to point out what Trevor Noah said, on his show this week on The Daily Show. He said, the gun doesn't matter as much as who's holding the gun. Because for some people, black skin is the most threatening weapon of all. And you can't say it any better than that. It's just truth at this point.
I would love to hear what you have to say, whether you're white, whether you're black. Let us know in the comments below what you think about this topic.